guys, Victor here with Programmatic Academy. We are on course 3, lesson 2, campaign setup, and we will be discussing campaign details. All right, so we're gonna create a campaign, and for our purposes, we're going to be using MediaMath as an example. Okay, the reason I chose MediaMath is because I think it has a good user interface. It's very friendly. It's the one I have most experience with, so we'll run with that one. However, once you start gaining experience and time on a platform and you run across, let's say, 2 or 3 different platforms, you soon realize that a lot of the same things or the same functionalities, the same names, the same, sort of things you can do are very similar across all these platforms. So if you learn one well, you can probably run across most of them. And of course, each of them always has their own knowledge base, which is very helpful. And I've yet to find one company that doesn't have a good amount of information in their knowledge base to help out. All right, so let's say we want to create a campaign. We click Add Campaign. Oh, sorry, one more thing I wanted to point out. If we look at the table I have here, all right, this is just for you to keep in mind. We're using MediaMath, so the structure of our campaign is started with advertiser. So we create an advertiser, which I think we already did in the past course or lesson, and then from there it goes to campaign, and then to strategy. Google DBM starts with advertiser, goes to insertion order, and then line item. AppNexus starts with advertiser, line item, and campaign. This in looking at all these things in the different nomenclatures they have for advertiser and campaign and all this other stuff, this is where a lot of people get confused. I got confused initially with once I stepped outside and started using other platforms, but essentially the way you need to read all these is like this. The top, is you create first the advertiser, then you create the campaign, and then you create the tactic. That really doesn't change across any of the platforms I've used. Okay. All right, so we're going to go to the first tab in the new campaign, which is the details tab. And we're going to start with active. You can either leave it active or click inactive. If you're very worried about it starting without having everything in place, you might want to leave it inactive. However, campaigns that don't have creatives, for example, things like that, will not run regardless of the status. Next, we go over here to the campaign name. In continuing with our ABKiller product, we use naming conventions, which I think are very important for any digital campaign. Here we have the product name, we have the campaign name or the campaign function. This is a performance campaign. The date. If you run outside of different countries, you might want to include the geolocation because it gets a little confusing if you have many different campaigns and you want to see which one is performing better. You need the naming conventions for that. In this case, MediaMath has an option for managed service, which means that they run it themselves. We're not going to do that. We're going to leave it as a T1 client, which means self-service. Okay. Over here, we move to the goal type. We're going to put it as CPA, cost per action. And because this is a performance campaign, okay, it could also be a CPM, CPC, if it's a branding initiative, or a newer metric or goal type that they've included recently, which is ROI. This one I don't have too much trust in yet, so we will not use that. Essentially, It's supposed to work based on the return on investment and how to and runs against that. You include a macro in your tag to capture the revenue, and it's supposed to optimize against that. But we'll leave it as CPA for now, which is tried and true. Our ad server of record is DFA, Dart for Advertisers. And here they have an option for margin amount. This is essentially if you are an agency and you come to an agreement with your client on a margin amount. If not, leave it at 0. We've always left that at 0. So it's if you're running, fee-based, for example. All right, continuing, we select the time zone, and this should be your own time zone so that reporting can be accurate, especially if you're running ad serving as well. You don't want to have a huge discrepancy between the numbers and then come to find out it's something as easy as you had different time zones in your DSP and then another time zone in your ad server. For budget currency, we're going to stick to US dollar. Start and end dates of the campaign, okay, also known as budget flights. The total campaign budget is $25,000, and then the daily pacing. Obviously, you want to have an amount set or spent per day. However, at the campaign level, we're not going to introduce that because we want to pace it by our tactic or our strategy, as MediaMath calls it. Okay. Another option that MediaMath has is let algorithm determine frequency cap. You can leave it as T1 optimized, which is their platform, or you can put a custom one. It also, in our case, doesn't matter because you can enter frequency caps on the tactic level or the strategy level. Now, they have an option called minimize ad collisions. Okay, this setting has been activated at the advertiser level, and all this, the minimize ad collisions, what that does is that prevents, let's say, all 3 banners appearing on the same page. So it's a lot. It tends to save budget, save money, and increase performance if you're not buying all 3 ad slots in one page. So we always want to have that included. Okay, continuing, we have something that's very important is the merit pixel. All right, so if you remember our pixel implementation, you want to have one on the confirmation page, especially if it's an ROI or a performance campaign. All right, the merit pixel is the one that's going to trigger once a sale or conversion has happened. We will keep the default post-click window and post-view window at 30 days each. This will obviously depend on your product, or if you're an agency, on your what the client insists you have as attribution windows. Post-view attribution 100%. I usually leave it at that. All right, we're going to attribute 1 merit event per user for 1 minute. This helps to dedupe any duplicate conversions when we have it like this. And then the bid optimization, we want to leave it as it is, T1 attribution, unless you have a custom attribution model, which I think can be brought in through some other rules and things like that. But I have not used this, so for now we will leave it as a T1. Bid on browsers that do not retain cookies using Connected ID. Connected ID is MediaMath's cross-device technology. For now, we want to leave it disabled because while cookies are still, device IDs and things like that are used a lot now for cross-device. cookies are still a huge part of any buy, so we want to, you know, bid on browsers that do have cookies. Bid across user devices and browsers connected using connected ID. I'm gonna just leave it, as it is. Suspicious traffic filter. They have their own, internal traffic filter. Obviously, we want to leave it selected, or we can add, some other custom ones. But again, we have options that you'll see later on to include, for example, brand safety and ad verification technology. All right, and then finally, if you want to include, let's say, the cost of ad serving um, in your trading or DSP invoicing, you can include, something here. The ad serving is one example. You can include other technologies that you're connected to in here. I've honestly never used it because I like to have costs separated, but this is an option. All right. We have site lists, which can be campaign wide. And this is going to be after all the details in the campaign. You can select either the blacklists or the whitelist. Blacklists exclude those sites. Whitelists include those sites. But be careful, because you use a whitelist, it will only run on those sites and will not open up to other sources of inventory, and will take precedence over any other selection you've made. So if you're using a whitelist, make sure that your tactic is whitelist intended. In this case, I'm sorry I had to black out a lot of stuff, but I didn't want to, put out there the names and IDs of blacklists and whitelists that we've used. Now, there's a third tab here called Audiences in Brain. And for those of you that don't know, the brain is what MediaMath refers to as their algorithm. Most DSPs have their own algorithm. Some have names for it, some don't. Regardless, what we want to do here is select the pixels that we want the algorithm to learn from. So in this case, we can select the home page if we want to learn the types of audience that is going to the home page, or we can select the confirmation page if we want to see the types of people that have already gone through and purchased. All right, we've come to the end of lesson 2. This is the quiz. If you have any questions, please leave them below and I will answer as soon as possible. Good luck. Thank you.